Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Asani Kayatano.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It is Monday, February 10th. We're 4 days away from Valentine's Day.
Wow, yes, you're right. We are officially in the love week.
Yes, we are.
Well, I don't think Valentine's Day is what's on people's minds right now. There's a whole lot going
I just
on.
threw that in there as a gentle reminder.
I know. Well, you know what? I think there are a lot of people who will appreciate that in case they
Indeed
forgot,
they will.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you can look forward to our Valentine's special come this Friday and all the things that maybe will help you get ready between now and then. But we got to get things going with our show for today. And of course, that starts off with our weather update. And we're going to go ahead and read the prepared forecast for this morning. So the general situation is for a light to moderate east-southeasterly airflow to prevail over the area.
The 24-hour forecast calls for sunny with cloudy spells today and partly cloudy tonight. Showers will be isolated.
All right, our winds are moving from the east to southeast at 10 to 20 knots, and that makes for a moderate sea state.
And the general outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night calls for mainly fair weather to prevail with only isolated showers developing.
All right. Our high temperatures for today are going to be 88 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 86 along the coast, 88 inland, and 80 in the hills.
And the lows along the coast will be 80 degrees Fahrenheit, inland 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the hills 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
Our extended forecast for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for mainly fair weather to prevail with only isolated showers developing. Right, and we want to thank our forecaster on duty at the Met Service, Angelia Guy, for putting together that update for today. Fairly easy. It's been nice weather.
Yes.
Sunny and windy.
No one's complaining.
Exactly.
I'm not.
All right, so we're going to keep things moving now, and it's time for a little Monday motivation, and that means we're going to be moving into our eye opener. And our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. We truly want to succeed, but may be afraid, so we subconsciously create circumstances to keep ourselves stuck. When you find yourself facing obstacles that appear to be blocking you from your goals, it is important to try not to get discouraged. It can be easy to feel stuck or that life is creating circumstances preventing you from getting what you want. And while it is easy to look at everyone and everything outside of ourselves for the problem, perhaps even wanting to get rid of the person, object, or circumstance we may feel is blocking us, sometimes the best course of action to take may be to look inside ourselves first. Remember, the choices we make always are there to serve us until it is time to let them go. When you are finished, throw the paper away while setting an intention that you're getting rid of any obstacles you've created to block yourself. You can then let yourself start again with a clean slate. Doubts and fears are going to be natural, but with this new awareness, you should be able to prevent yourself from subconsciously thwarting yourself. Besides, now that you've decided to get out of your own way, the part of you that has always wanted to succeed can now do so.
There is an expression, Marlene, that goes as follows. You are your own worst enemy, right? And so when I look at the first line from this eye-opener, I think of the many times where, I've been wanting to do something, but in the process of pondering how I'll go about doing it, I end up creating my own stumbling blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes in the way I look at it, sometimes it speaks to a lack of self-confidence as to why you would create certain obstacles where there really isn't any.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of introspection, right? Being able to look within and say, you know what, but if I am not sure of something, let me take some time and reflect on it, think about it, and then proceed in a certain direction or a certain course of action that allows me to remove any fear, any unnecessary hurdles that I may put in my own way to be able to either achieve or to be able to see something through. And that aspect of introspection is very necessary and vital, because a lot of times we don't look within. we tend to look ahead, but we don't step back and say, you know what, let me examine myself, let me examine my position before I'm able to actually say something or do something. And we just kind of act on instinct.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because we all do it. I think you saying it, I feel the same way as well. I think we all as human beings, no matter how much we say, oh, get out of your comfort zone, we like the comfort zone.
Yeah.
We like the things we know.
That's your
even
safe
the
haven.
evil in the things we know. It could be a routine that you hate in your life every day, but you keep on doing it because that's just your routine and you're comfortable with it. I think what the eye-opener reminds us is just how much we have to develop a sense of courage and bravery to just go after things that we are uncertain about. And it is scary. There's a fear of failure. There's a fear of vulnerability, of people seeing you fail. And there's so many other things. And I think that one of the things that helps a lot is sometimes just going for it. You know, the minute you think about something, you get that little spark of excitement inside of you, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then you allow yourself to think about it some more, and within sometimes a couple of minutes you talk yourself out of it. You think of everything that can go wrong and you don't do it. You hesitate, and something inside you say, oh, that isn't your comfort zone, that isn't what you know, and you no longer move forward. And I think what the eye-opener is reminding us is that we have to get out of our own way. We have to stop talking ourselves out of things that somehow ignite us or give us that spark, and sometimes just go for it.
See, I like to look at expressions and proverbs as sort of a way to kind of contextualize certain things that happen in life, right? There's also an expression that says confusion can give way to doubt. So that when you're not certain of what it is that you want to do, or when you're not certain of a position to take, you're either lost on an issue or you're confused, you start doubting yourself. And in doubting yourself, you kind of distance yourself from being able to achieve the things that you want to do, right? So those two ideas or concepts, if I may, work in tandem with each other.
And you know, I think that a lot of times we think that indecisiveness or, you know, weighing all the options really gets us anywhere, but that just sometimes leaves us in the exact same spot, which is a decision in itself. And I'm not talking about, like, you know, taking your gut instinct and leaving your family and like running away, or it's clearly a more measured response. But especially when it comes to the goals that you have for yourself, I think we all can benefit from not necessarily spending so much time on that second thought or third thought, but just go ahead and get started. Maybe you get somewhere on the path and you decide it's not what you want, but you got to get started.
Indeed, you have to.
That's right. So it's a perfect motivation for a Monday morning.
Yes, it is.
Now, Isani, of course, we know that you had a very long day yesterday.
Long weekend, actually.
A long weekend, yesterday was the National Convention for the United Democratic Party, where they selected their new leader of the party and other executives. And we had extensive coverage online on our Facebook page, and we are going to do a bit of a recap this morning, right?
Yes, we are.
All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and shift gears into our Eye on the News.
All right, so while you've alluded to a full review of what took place yesterday at the UDP's leadership convention, I want to start off first of all by discussing the scare or the threat that happened on Saturday in respect of 12 Asian nationals from mainland China who arrived at the Philip Goldson Airport on Saturday via an American Airlines flight. And I'm being told that the aircraft came in from the United States, I think via Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so there was this notion that persons on board who exhibited certain signs or symptoms that are similar to those of the novel coronavirus, you know, these individuals had landed at the PGIA and immediately, based on the interaction from what I'm understanding between the immigration department, the personnel from the immigration who refused to allow these passengers formal entry into the country, and the American Airlines staff, as I was told, right? And the fact that our own medical personnel had to respond to the PGIE to conduct certain vital assessments to determine whether or not, in fact, these individuals are infected with the novel coronavirus. And it created sort of a frenzy because we have been monitoring this issue extensively, closely. And you would recall in last week, there were two, I don't want to refer to them as fake news per se.
No, there were cases of interest, I think.
Yes, perhaps that's a better classification, right?
Yeah.
Where they were saying someone in Keycarker and then they were saying someone at the Corozal border. And those two cases, or those two instances, if I may, never really materialized into any actual case of the coronavirus. Nonetheless, I think with that in mind, we were on high alert because that information had gone out last week and we were kind of, you know, eyes wide open insofar as looking out for that. When this aircraft landed on Saturday, and the suspicion was that, in fact, persons on board the flight were infected with this deadly virus, we had to spring into action. And so, from a news perspective, from a journalistic point of view, we had to mobilize and get out there to try to get an understanding of what was actually taking place on the ground. So it's at this point where my colleague Dwayne Moody went to the Philip Goldson Airport and spoke with one of the key local figures, this being one of the persons from Belize tasked with responding to this particular threat. And in so doing, Dwayne was able to interview with Dr. Manzanero, Ramon Manzanero, Russell Manzanero, stand corrected, to discuss what the actual issue was on the ground. So let's go to that interview, and then when we come back, we can provide an update thereafter.
Dr. Manzanero, sir, you guys, a team of health officials, you guys are here at the Philip Goldson International Airport. Talk to us about what is happening. What you can share with us at this time.
I believe the travel screening is what is being done at this point in regards to influenza surveillance. I guess particular interest in the novel coronavirus situation. So what we've been doing, measures at ports of entry, and especially here at the international and either at border management, is to get a complete understanding of where these individuals are coming from. I guess we really know that they are traveling everywhere, so it's not only through the U.S., So we really needed to heighten our kind of surveillance and step up our game to see how we can see the individuals who are coming in. They may not necessarily be Chinese nationals, but they're any traveler who is coming from that area. So we're particularly interested in seeing where they are coming from and getting that kind of information back to us. The purpose, of course, is to get a concern and see where we can follow up these individuals in the event that anything should come around. Fortunately, the ones that we've been screening are all asymptomatic. Nobody is coming in sick at the moment. The only cases that we did have concern that we had to go and do some screenings were those in the north. But we knew of those cases. We jumped on it. Samples were taken, and as we had mentioned, one was negative and the other was the seasonal flu. So for now, you see a lot of travelers at the moment. So what is being done is to look at that kind of information from the travelers coming in. So we're basically not, we're screening everybody. That's everybody, including crew members, everybody that's coming off the plane, to just ensure these travel kind of history that we need from them. And of course, if they have the screening history or the travel history, is to pull them aside and see, okay, let me see, do a little more in-depth interview. And we have nurses and staff here who are actually doing the physical screening, like temperature checks and all of that. So that is in place right now. So.
How do you ensure, sir, that these people who are being screened do not feel like they're being discriminated?
No, I think it's basically for all. I mean, the public has to know that travel is travel. Globalization and the movement of people is not only from that area. I mean, we have U.S. nationals, Canadian nationals, Belizeans, everybody is traveling. They are making connections in that part of the area as well. You have Taiwan, you have other areas that people are coming from that has ongoing transmission. So for us, we really need to see what kind of measures are in place. We do know that screenings are being done on that side, at exit screenings, but as well the U.S. and other places are doing their own screenings. For us, this is a third measure to ensure that kind of screening is being met.
One of the most pertinent questions that comes to mind in respect of all of this is whether or not we would have adequate resources and capacity and the facilities necessary to be able to treat either an outbreak or this particular disease making its way to Belize. I think it's the question that comes to almost anyone's mind when they think of how small Belize is, and they look at the fact that we're concentrated in certain areas of the country, like Belize City, for instance, right? How would our health authorities be able to respond, contain, and mitigate this kind of a rash, so to speak? And it is interesting because perhaps while our curiosity allows us to be following cases of coronavirus here, there, and everywhere outside of Belize, we're not necessarily, as Belizeans, as a local everyday person, looking at measures that we can or we should take once in fact it makes its way here. And so that's just one of my observations, having looked at this issue over the weekend.
I think we've covered quite a bit of health scares when it comes to new viruses being
Reminds me of the Ebola scare a few years ago.
Yeah,
and how that was
and
dealt
there
with.
was the H1N1. There was even the outbreak of Zika that took place, and we go on high alert. It really takes me back to what the eye opener says. It's new, and you kind of don't know how to react. And I understand why people are concerned, because the idea of something new, and countries like China or the United States not knowing how to treat it as yet feels very concerning, because we know that we're lesser equipped, lesser resourced than those types of countries to respond. But I also think that it is important, and in fact, I think the entire medical community has been kind of talking about how people can temper their fears. We must be vigilant, but we also have to be rational. Ebola is a great example. Ebola killed almost half the people that were infected with it. That's a 50% death rate. Currently, coronavirus has a 2% death rate. And so I think we mustn't lose sight of that as well. It is concentrated in China, and I think that's where, or focus on what is taking place at our border points has to be the most crucial. This case, I think it was on Saturday, was really interesting because one of the first messages I got was that, you know, these people were coming from Wuhan, which didn't make sense because Wuhan's been on a lockdown. Like, you can't fly out of Wuhan. So
you can't go in or you can't come out. It's been quarantined, so to speak.
And so you have to be careful, you know, the things you see, the things you read, and we really do. We have a responsibility, especially here in the media, in being careful of these things as well. And we accept responsibility if we do get it wrong, but we also have to be careful. So one, and then the second thing is the flight originated out of Los Angeles. We don't have a direct flight from China. That's part of what lessens or risk in this particular region, because we are relying, or we at least have a first check that can take place in a country beyond our
primary
borders.
Screening, as we'd say.
Yeah, a primary, well, almost secondary, because I understand that even in China, before you leave, you get screened as well. So that's also a part of it. So they may get screened in China, whatever other airport they go to before. In the United States, they also have their screening, and then they would come. So I really had all those questions when the first report came out, or I should say actually the rumor, because I got it more WhatsApp before. And the other thing is that we have heard from the Ministry of Health several things, because they've pretty much been giving us information as well. One, they had already activated a surveillance plan at the immigration at the border entry points.
The ports of entry.
With PGIA specifically, they had upgraded their manifesto to find out what their flight of origin, what the origin is for each passenger coming in. So they should have known that these people were coming from China. Secondly, there are health personnel there already who should do checks. So I can't understand, and maybe that's some clarity we'll get during the course of the day, as to how these people came and it almost seemed like they didn't know. But of course, that's because we don't have all the information from the Ministry of Health, because we know that they're supposed to get the manifestos. American Airlines boarded them on the flight. But the subsequent release that came out from the Ministry of Health did say that, in fact, none of them had flu-like symptoms, and only one had a cough, which was tested, and they didn't have any influenza virus that was detected. So I think we are going to be on high alert. I think we're going to be really fearful because of the newness of the virus and the reports that we see coming in. It's a huge outbreak, especially in China. But we still have to remain very vigilant. And I think you said the most important thing. We just need to take preventative measures here to not spread flus in the first place, because that will make us, a bit less wary of whether or not we have this brand new virus, and to be very conscious of things like that and keep on paying attention to facts. If something seems strange, I always tell people this with fake news. If something seems like a strange story, like you don't want to believe it, just do an extra check. Google it, check it, look up ask Google, it'll help you with some of the basic logical questions, and go from there. And then it helps you to not consume, especially rumors. We see this with hurricanes, we see it with health scares, sometimes we see it with major crimes when they happen. Rumors spread fast, and we just have to temper ourselves.
Well said.
Yeah, but the ban in fact was something that came into effect after this particular scare, and I suspect it's perhaps because of the way people were so concerned at the idea of people coming in from China, whether it's 2 weeks after they left China, 3 weeks after they left China. People were really concerned about that fact, and so the government has instituted a ban for people traveling from China.
Which I think is, at this point, an appropriate measure to have taken, considering the fact that other countries have equally instituted their own travel ban for passengers or individuals leaving from mainland China. So that was the first major development over the weekend. Thankfully, it did not materialize into anything that could have become worse, an issue for us. That was Saturday. Now, I think this is the part of the eye on the news that most people are eagerly anticipating. They've already learned of the outcome. However, the discussion that we are going to have in respect of all that transpired yesterday, I think, is important at this point. Now, that being said, Marlene, the media entered into this convention sort of blindly, in a manner of speaking, considering the fact that we were severely limited from access to the events of the day. And I will share openly what my observation and my personal opinion was, having stood outside of the Civic Center for several hours while other persons who are either stalwarts of the party, persons who are simply curious to see how this process was undertaken or what have you, to say this. So the formal or the official media was blocked out of this particular event. However, anyone who has a cell phone, who has data and access to the internet, could have streamed the events of the convention, perhaps with their own personal biases, right? Whereas we are charged with being objective in our reporting, those individuals can go online and provide their own commentary based on the candidate of their choice. So standing outside and being unable to do our job to the fullest and seeing this kind of activity taking place, I think it was an interesting juxtaposition to see that the citizen reporter in that case took over as opposed to the actual, trained staff, so to speak. So that...
I do hope it's something that we don't see again. I think it was a very antiquated decision. Clearly, they didn't have the foresight to think, oh, well, people have cell phones. They'll send pictures, video stream in this day and age on social media. But beyond that, I think it goes deeper. I think when you block the independent media from an event like this and only allow your party, because I understand Colorblind and Wave were allowed inside to be able to document and to transmit, I think it is a very dangerous precedent to set. I've heard the excuses that have been given that, the delegates wanted privacy.
Well, this
Not
decision,
in this day and age.
the decision came out of a meeting of the National Party Council last Saturday, right? And so...
Secondly, that it was an internal matter, not necessarily so. And I think that any person can put together the connections and see the implications, especially in an election year, especially given the context of the issues that we have been seeing with both leadership candidates. So I think that those were not necessarily solid enough grounds for you to say the independent media in the country should stay outside or party organs are allowed inside. So hopefully we don't see this reoccur again.
So another observation to be made is that as far as we stood outside the main entrance of the Belize City Center, we were, as the media, looking forward to see all the area representatives and the key movers and shakers of the party sort of make their grand entrance into the building, either with their supporters and that sort of stuff. And indeed, quite a number of them showed up with their delegates and other, avid supporters of theirs. But I would want to go on a limb here to say that there were other key figures who were seemingly whisked or spirited into the building, right? We did not see, from where we stood, the arrival of John Saldivar, nor did we see the arrival of the Prime Minister. And like I said, in anticipation of the convention itself and the fact that you had thousands of party supporters in and outside of the building making their way into the city center, these are some of the faces that we were looking forward to, either for an interview opportunity or to just be able to provide commentary on their arrival. And so that did not happen, which was kind of anticlimactic. But I'm just saying that.
Well, we did see Faber's arrival.
Yes.
We saw Tracy,
we saw Boots, we saw several, like I said, there were quite a number of them
the Prime Minister
who arrived
and
with their...
Saldivar clearly did not come through the front entrance.
So, like I said, it seemed to have been that they were spirited in one way or the other. That's how it appeared to us, right? And so, describing the mood, first of all, insofar as persons arriving and insofar as the energy on the ground, it's safe to say that it was very well attended. There was a sea of red streaming constantly into the building. Persons from as far south, from as far north, and other far-flung reaches of the country converged on the city center yesterday to participate either as delegates or to just be there to show their support for their candidate and, by extension, the party. Yeah. All right, so you had Belizeans from all over the country who were there. And in a sense, it's a show of unity to see so many people come together for one event. But you can't help, because of the fierce nature of the competition, you can't help but notice that it was also fractured. Yeah. Based on the fact that you have people who are staunch supporters of one candidate against the other, and their political beliefs coming to play or coming into conflict with someone else's philosophy, that sort of thing. And so all of that made for like a melting pot of different emotions and stuff like that, you know? And it was interesting to see people interacting with each other in that manner. So there were a number of interviews that we did. Yeah. Before we get to the outcome, which I will want to leave for further down in the conversation, we can go to some of the preliminary interviews that were conducted insofar as building that particular momentum. Yeah. So if Rick can share with us the first video and we could have a look.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't much work from day one. What we were looking for is an individual who would put Lake Independence on the map. I kept saying that the days of stepping on the constituents' dignity is over. The days of handout is over. We need a leader who, when he speaks, he sees Lake Independence in the midst of gaining any kind of opportunity that is available to uplift my people within that constituency. And that is the reason why I chose to support Team Saldivar.
Nonetheless, you're lending your support to a rather controversial candidate at this point, notwithstanding all the scandals and everything that has been thrown his way. How do you face that in terms of being able to either set that aside in favor of this particular candidate of choice?
I think you're asking the best person. One, because I work with young people who have a record, have contact with the law. I've done interventions, continue to do interventions with individuals who have journeyed and are journeying the wrong path. I am of the opinion that because I associate with someone, it doesn't mean I am like them. What it means is I'm in the midst of them to create a certain kind of mentoring and guidance for them to become better. So where John is concerned with all the scandal, Jules, Isani, if I know you, or I met you, you've heard about my program, and you decide you want to invest in my program, welcome. And if 2 months, 1 month down the road, I hear you are of a kind of character that is not desirable of the world, let's say, how does that make me a bad person? No, and I'm telling you, you investing in me will show that the investment you did is about the people. And I think where John is concerned, those investments that he may have gotten or may not have gotten, it's proof. Look at Belmopan, look at the football team, look at the housing community. So he has done well for his people and he has manifested to this nation. He's a go-getter. He's going to bring in the funds to transform this nation and take it to the level where it ought to be. So I'm full support of Team Saldivar.
But suppose next week in Utah, there is a testimony which directly implicates him with evidential proof. Then the man you have thrown your whole support behind is in trouble and may be leader for a week.
That is then. Right now, John has said to us, has manifested to us, that he has nothing to worry about. And so there's only two people who have the real truth, you know, the court and that man right there named John Saldivar. And if he has looked at all of us and said, I have nothing to worry about, then I believe him.
All right, so that was an interview we conducted with the Lake Independence UDP standard bearer, Diane Finnegan. And she was sharing her thoughts on her candidate of choice amidst all the scandal that looms over his head.
And I know this was one of your earlier interviews, but it really did set the tone. What we saw throughout the course of the day from the interviews that you guys did was essentially all those who have publicly backed Honorable John Saldivar continued to do so on the day of the convention itself. They didn't shy away from reiterating their support for him as a leadership candidate. And
to go back a little bit, the night before, on Saturday, Patrick Faber held a gala event at the Biltmore where delegates from all over the country were also invited to attend that particular event. And John Saldivar also had his delegate activity, if I may, up in Progresso on Saturday as well. So these were perhaps last attempts to try to get as many persons on board for either camp, right? And so that carried over into Sunday. We go now to the interview that was conducted with Patrick Faber upon his arrival. And I'll say this, the air of confidence and you know, the groundswell from supporters who arrived along with him was also palpable. You could feel that, you know, they were coming in with a certain energy, and by all indications, he felt he had it covered. And so we interviewed with him, and let's hear what he has to say upon his arrival. Good morning, Minister Faber.
My brother.
Talk to us about coming in today to the convention.
A wonderful feeling. We had a very wonderful event yesterday that convinces me, as I have always said though, that we have the base of the party. We had in excess of 300 delegates at our event last night. From all my accounts, my opponents' events were not successful, and it sends a signal that people are just waiting. Don't watch the shirt today. People have in their heart this party. They know what is best for this party, and we are going to come out victorious. But I don't want people to get the impression that we are not serious about uniting this party. And so at the end of the day today, we will emerge as a unified party, and we will ensure, in fact, that we come out as the most fit party to win the next elections and to continue the UDP's legacy.
What happens if the tide changes and goes in favor of your opponent?
Well, I doubt that will happen today. But as I've said, no matter the outcome, we are going to unite. This party is not going to break up, and we're going to have a big, strong show of support today for the UDP, a unified support for the UDP.
Thank you, Minister Faber. That was Deputy Prime Minister. Our conversation with Patrick Faber as he made his way inside the convention center, so to speak. As I mentioned, there was this air of confidence that things would have turned out in his favor. As we now know, it did not materialize in that manner for him. Nonetheless, it's safe to say that very strong effort was put out by both candidates, and in fact by all candidates, because we're not only looking at the leadership role of the party, we're also looking at other seats in the executive that were equally vacant, right? And so, Marlene, one of the more sober discussions, in a manner of speaking, that I had out there yesterday was with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Senate President. I'm sorry, the Senate President, Darrell Bradley.
Yeah.
And he shared quite an objective and informed outlook as to the importance of him voting as a person who had that right yesterday and what it means to the overall United Democratic Party. So we go now to that interview with Darrell Bradley.
I was in the YPF at that time, and now again it is a representation of the strength really of our democracy in our nation and also of the internal party structure. This is the first time that we've ever had something as contested as this, so it is doubly more significant. So I felt incumbent upon me to come out here to listen to all the work that the party is doing, some of the policies that will be presented, because of course this is an election for the party officials, but it's also the party convention where significant decisions will be taken in relation to the party itself. That notwithstanding, I mean, there's a degree of euphoria. People are very excited. You see some people outside drinking, enjoying themselves. It's very spirited, and it is a great honor for me to be part of this event, which I think is very monumentous in the history of our country.
So I'm not going to ask you who you're voting for. However, I'll ask you what informs your vote in terms of looking at the strengths and weaknesses of both candidates.
Well, I have been very familiar with both candidates from one.
However, we'll revisit that interview from a different perspective to get
audio.
fully what he's saying in terms of the clarity of the audio. What we'll do in the meantime, though, we'll go to the interview that was done with the Pickstock era representative and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wilfred
Very
Ellerington.
interesting, right? He showed up midday,
Yeah.
was it? Which is after the official ceremony, after all the speeches and whatnot had happened.
And it didn't seem that he arrived with much fanfare and all of that stuff either. He arrived individually and he departed individually thereafter as well. But let's hear from him as to what he shared with my colleague Dwayne yesterday.
So that I do not know whether the party made the calculation at that time that the date would have either a positive or a negative impact on the election.
So you're going in to vote. Would you care to tell us who you're supporting and why?
No, I will not tell you that. I will not tell you that because it's for that very reason that the vote is secret. It's not supposed to be publicized.
But what factors do you take into consideration when you decide who you're going to vote for?
Good question, really. I am old school. I am very concerned about the ethical and moral values that are going to be displayed by the leader. The competence, I take into consideration the track record of the person. I take into consideration the impact which they have had in their own constituencies in terms of the welfare, particularly of the kids, how they have functioned and fared with respect to education, security. Those are issues that are uppermost in my mind, and those are the things that I consider when I decide to cast my vote.
Now, the Prime Minister is basically vacating his seat as party leader. You have worked with him over the last few years as him being party leader and under Prime Minister. How would you sum up his presence, his influence and his performance in the party and in government?
Well, perhaps the most significant thing is that he was able to keep the party together. There were no factions that was pulling one way or the other. We tended to be quite united over the last 12 years, and I think that speaks volumes for him. I think that's what I want to say on that.
Now, you talk about factions, but in the last year, especially in the last year when the leadership convention came about and you have the two candidates, there seems to have been some sort of division within the party, and it had gotten nasty at certain points. What would be your feedback on that?
I think that's natural and normal in the democratic process. People do say things in the heat of the moment that will rankle the other side, but that is natural and normal in a democracy.
And I'll push my luck one last time, sir. Who are you voting for?
I will not disclose that to you.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So as Minister Ellington said, the idea of the secret vote is that you don't necessarily divulge the name of the candidate of choice.
It made me think, actually. I think there weren't many area representatives and standard bearers who didn't align themselves with one of the leadership candidates. Is he the only one?
That's a good question. Perhaps he is.
Yeah, well, the Prime Minister also didn't disclose.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But we saw where the results went in the end. So we have now that Darrell Bradley interview that you spoke
the proper
of.
Darrell Bradley interview that I mentioned earlier. Let's go to that. To us about being here today. It is a very important day. About being here today, participating in the convention.
Well, as a member of the United Democratic Party, it's really an honor. I think several times since I have been involved in the party, there has been a transition of power. I remember when the Right Honorable Prime Minister took over the party, I was in the YPF at that time. And now again, it is a representation of the strength really of our democracy in our nation and also of the internal party structure. This is the first time that we've ever had something as contested as this. So it is doubly more significant. And so I felt incumbent upon me to come out here to listen to all the work that the party is doing, some of the policies that will be presented, because of course this is an election for the party officials, but it's also the party convention where significant decisions will be taken in relation to the party itself. That notwithstanding, I mean, there is a great degree of euphoria. People are very excited. You see some people outside drinking, enjoying themselves. It's very spirited, and it is a great honor for me to be part of this event, which I think is very monumentous in the history of our country.
Now, I'm not going to ask you who you're voting for. However, I'll ask you what informs your vote in terms of looking at the strengths and weaknesses of both candidates.
Well, I have been very familiar with both candidates for an extended period of time, particularly in terms of my being involved in the United Democratic Party. I know both of them very well. I know their work in ministerial capacities and so forth. And so in terms of a candidate's vision to lead the party and lead the country forward, that's very important to me. One of the things that's also very important to me is, of course, in terms of publicly, there has been hits to the party in relation to corruption and dealing with very significant issues. That is something that looms very large over my consideration, because I think that the person who leads the country and takes the country forward must be somebody who is above reproach, must be somebody who can stand on credibility, stand on integrity, and say that this is the type of leadership, a leadership based on character. And then again, the second thing is really that you have to have vision and ideas. How is it that you're going to move the country forward? Those are really the significant factors. I've had the opportunity of engaging with both of the candidates one-on-one. I know their record and so forth. So to me, it's a clear choice.
Speak to us widely about the party going into the 2020 general elections. You've mentioned that to some extent scandals have plagued the UDP. This is one critical juncture where a decision will be taken going forward in respect of the leadership. But insofar as being able to mount a campaign, being able to share with the wider constituents across the country that this party is perhaps still the party to lead government?
Well, I believe that the record of the United Democratic Party is very strong. A party is about people and individuals. So the record of the United Democratic Party involves my record as mayor, and we did a stellar job at City Hall in relation to infrastructure or projects and really trying our best to get the house in order in terms of stamping out corruption. I think that the central government has also done a significant job in building some of the development sectors of the country, and the record of the United Democratic Party is strong. I believe that when we move forward into a general election, one of the things that I'd want to see coming out of this convention is that the party is unified and that the party takes very strong stances against corruption. I think that that is one of the most significant developmental challenges. But that being said, when one compares the People's United Party and the United Democratic Party in terms of who is best positioned to continue to lead the country, I believe that choice is the United Democratic Party.
Well said. Thank you. That is... Sir. All right, so that was the interview that I had initially wanted for us to revisit with Darrell Bradley. and his outlook in terms of where the party is going after the convention is very key in terms of his own perspective and the way he sees things, right? Now, aside from that, we go to the actual outcome of the convention for the voting, just to kind of go back over who the candidates are respectively. First of all, the Honorable Michael Perfit was endorsed as the chairman of the United Democratic Party. This was so when his key opponent at the time, Dr. Carla Barnett, decided to withdraw her candidacy. So automatically, Mike Perfit became the chairman, and the vote for the deputy chairman went in favor of the outgoing chairman, Alberto August, who bested Khalid Belail for that particular post.
Khalid was an independent candidate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we also have the leadership candidacy, which was Patrick Faber and John Saldivar. Right? This was the most hotly contested of, in my opinion, all the other seats that were available. This is for the person who could very well become the next prime minister of the country. And so, aside from that, you also had the deputy party leader's seat available.
The first deputy?
First deputy, So and you have Hugo Pat, who ran against Manuel Heredia.
No, who ran against Tracy
Panton.
Who was also another independent
candidate, correct. And then for second deputy, you had Beverly Williams and you had Manuel Heredia Jr.
That's right.
Right?
So I have the numbers, so I could perhaps do that. So
let's go into the actual outcome where Mike Perfit goes through the mentions, etc., and then we could give the actual figures afterwards.
Okay.
So a total of 569 out of 570 cast their votes today. The results are as follows. For Vice Chairperson, Mr. Khalid Belail had a total of 220 votes. Mr. Alberto August had a total of 344 votes. Mr. Alberto August is the new Vice Chair of the United Democratic Party. Please give him a round of applause. For second Deputy Leader, the Honorable Manuel Heredia had 216 votes, and the Honorable Beverly Williams had a total of 349 votes. The Honorable Beverly Williams is the new second Deputy Leader of the United Democratic Party. For first Deputy Leader, the Honorable Tracy Panton had 177 votes. The Honorable Hugo Pat had a total of 390 votes. The Honorable Hugo Pat is the new first Deputy Leader of the United Democratic Party. For Party Leader, the Honorable Patrick Faber had a total of 227 votes, and the Honorable John Saldivar had a total of 342 votes. The Honorable John Saldivar is the new leader of the United Democratic Party.
There you have that moment of triumph, right?
Yeah, but I want to describe the atmosphere inside the city center at that point, right? I was able to get the first confirmation from John Saldivar himself that he had in fact defeated Patrick Faber. And so just the sheer energy inside the city center because before it was made official by the chairman, you had word going around fairly quickly inside, and so that anxiety and that sense of excitement, and as Darrell Bradley described it earlier, that euphoria was in full, full display and full motion yesterday. And so he had confirmed to me that in fact he did defeat Patrick Faber, and he made his way to the stage where he was officially announced as the victor. But in terms of the support that he gets, if you look there are a lot of people who are already celebrating his arrival, his move towards the stage. And so this was one of those interesting moments. You would keep in mind or consider the fact that we have tried desperately to get word from John Saldivar in light of everything that has happened. We as the media tried to seek him out to get some comment from him. And up until yesterday, I would want to say he shied away from the media.
No, he definitely did.
He avoided us at all costs.
He would not speak until February 9th. He did not go to the passing out ceremony of the BDF where you'd be able to get an interview. So I don't think, it's clear he didn't want to speak to the media.
Yeah. And so afterwards, well, I took the liberty to approach him immediately and said, well, you promised us that you would say something. Give us your first thoughts on victory. And of course, there were other questions that were asked, key questions regarding the Lev Derman trial and what have you. Now, while he was circumspect in terms of his response to the Lev Derman matter, he spoke as if though he has already been exonerated, at least in the court of public opinion, in respect of his victory yesterday. So what we will do, Marlene, we'll go now to that first interview that we had yesterday with the leader-elect, John Saldivar. Sir, let's begin by talking about how you're celebrating this victory.
Celebrating with my people, like I said earlier. Thank God for being such a wonderful God to me and to my team. Throughout all the tough times, He brought us through this one.
How difficult was it for you, considering everything that was looming over, or still continues to loom over your head?
Well, nothing that's worth having comes easy. And I knew that I was being tested. I knew that I was being put to the challenge. And I hope that the people of Belize see that I've passed that challenge.
Well, sir, there are still certain matters where your name is being called. How do you plan to deal with that going forward?
Well, first of all, the cloud that has been hanging over my head has been put there by those who have interpreted and misinterpreted things. I have not been at this point accused of anything. I've always said that I'm not guilty of any wrongdoing. I maintain that, and until anything else is proven otherwise, that is my position. And I'm glad that the people of Belize saw it that way, whilst the media may not have.
You've lost before, you finally won. Last time you lost, I said, 3 times and you're out. You kept on with it and now you've got the maximum prize. Emotionally, how does it feel?
It feels very good. It feels very good. I feel vindicated for all the other times that I was not able to make it. I think it's a signal to people, never give up. Always keep your eyes on the prize, know what you want to achieve. And because this is not just for me, this is for my people, for my colleagues, for my party, for my government, it is even better achievement for me.
Talk to us about healing.
You won by it, so it's 343 to 207.
Well, I wasn't surprised. I thought that we fought a good fight. We worked hard. We traveled this entire country. We had a good team behind us. We had over 22 ministers and standard bearers that were behind us. I knew it was going to be something terrific.
Talk to us about healing.
If I look towards every day with anxiety.
Utah.
No, not at all. I know that there's nothing that's going to come from that that's going to affect me in any negative way. I've always maintained my innocence.
When do you come together as a party?
Prime Minister has been talking about after reading the budget, but he and I will sit and discuss that.
Why did you vote for Derman to become honorary?
I will discuss nothing more about that trial. I will discuss nothing more about that.
Talk to us about healing then.
Yes, that is what we can talk about. As you saw up there, Honorable Patrick Faber and I are friends. We are going to continue to work together for our party. We believe we are the best option for this country. United, unified, we can defeat any party.
So will you strip him of his ministries if and when you become Prime Minister?
No more speculation.
He is my very good friend. That's not in the cards at this time.
So the third time has proven to be a charm for Minister John Saldivar. I think
I want to throw out a question
Sure.
that I know people have, and I don't have the answer to, but I await because usually, sometime in the future, information like this comes out, whether through books or whether through recording in history. Something had to happen within the United Democratic Party for such a fall from grace for Patrick Faber.
Well,
We
I
have
describe it
seen-
as a seismic shift.
Well, yeah, but something happens for that shift to take place. We have seen him grow up in politics. We have seen him in so many ways. People have seen where he was almost a chosen one, being groomed for leadership. And in fact, in the last deputy leadership convention, he had the mass support of the party. He was able to win that convention. And suddenly, you had almost the entire party turn against him.
Yeah.
It is very interesting as an outsider to watch, and especially who's non-aligned. It is absolutely fascinating to watch. It was very clear that there was no love. And when the announcement was made, I know in some of the videos you could hear the things people were hurling. And this is because, quite frankly, and we don't have to mince words, there's a lot of issues that have surrounded Honorable John Saldivar going into this convention. And especially the fact that he didn't talk to the media, he didn't clear his name, and other than Facebook posts and press releases. So it was really interesting to watch. So someday we'll get that answer as to what took place.
Another equally interesting thing to keep an eye on is who the actual moving hand was behind all of this. I mean, clearly
Has to
wasn't
be a powerful hand.
Precisely, right? So I have been snooping around to try to understand, you know, what could have happened, what took place that resulted in such a seismic shift in favor of John Saldivar, and for whatever reason, members of the party have been rather tight-lipped. So.
And they had no fear going in on convention day and following through with what they committed to do, which is showing him his support. But of course, the election of Honorable John Saldivar as the leader, the new leader of the United Democratic Party, now puts all attention on what's taking place in Salt Lake City, Utah. And our reporter is still on the ground. We have Hippolyta Novella on the line. He's going to talk to us a bit about what's expected today. Good morning.
Morning, Marlene. Morning, Ifari.
Good morning, Polo.
All right, so we hope it's a warmer day for you. Let's start there.
It's warmer, yeah.
Good. And that's because you have quite an interesting day ahead. Hippolyto, let's just do a quick recap as to what happened the last week. You've been sitting in on the case of Lev Derman in Salt Lake City, Utah since last week. So let's just do that recap to start us off.
Yeah, so the prosecution has called several key witnesses, and the witness that we all wanted or still want to hear from, Jacob Kingston, he first took the stand on Thursday afternoon. In his first few minutes on Thursday, the prosecution established his background in terms of being part of this polygamous sect here in Utah, and they continued with his education background and how he created Washaki Energy, renewable energy, here in Salt Lake City. After those questions, by Friday evening, they moved into the Belize connection. What the prosecution wanted to establish, or still wants to establish, is to point out how is it that the monies received from that 1.1 billion tax fraud involving Kingston, Lev Derman, and other key players was used. We know that Kingston has said that they were meeting in Miami with Belize ministers as well as mayors, but several trips to Belize to see several projects. Now, one of the bombshells that dropped on Friday, and a lot of people weren't expecting this name, well, those who haven't been following the case, but we do know that Ralph Fonseca name was called, and we do know that several persons in government had said that it was Ralph Fonseca who had introduced Lev Derman as a businessman who was seeking to invest in projects here in Belize. Even the Prime Minister mentioned it during his
press conference
after this scandal broke on the news. So we know that Ralph Fonseca met with Lev Derman and Jacob Kingston in Miami, according to Kingston, and during several meetings here. One of the key information that Kingston shared was that during one of their trips in 2012, mind you, this is for the period ending in 2012, that they were looking at the online and physical casino business here in Belize, and they bought a warehouse in Belize under the name of Ralph Fonseca. And when the prosecution asked Kingston where did he get the funds from, he said that he used the monies from the tax credit fraud. And they're also looking at to invest in people, as well as remodeling one of the courts there in Belize. Unfortunately, as they were getting more details of Belize, the judge broke off for the week.
Yeah.
And then the prosecution told the judge that they will continue with the Belize connection with Lev Derman, as well as the Turkish connection with Lev Derman. So we're hoping that Kingston will touch more on that connection going into 2013 today. He is to be on stand the entire day for today. The prosecution had indicated that they will be finished by today or tomorrow, Tuesday, but the defense, in a joking manner, Mr. Mark Gerardo, the lead attorney for Lev Derman, said that the way things are going, the prosecution might need until Thursday. He wouldn't be surprised if Kingston remains on the stand until Thursday, until cross-examination. So we're hoping that today more will be revealed, particularly in regards to those text messages that Kingston said he sent to the now UDP leader-elect John Saldivar, and we'll see what the context of those text messages is, and basically if what will be revealed today would have any effect on Saldivar's future in terms of leader of the UDP and leader of the country.
Yes. And, I do recall on Thursday, it was I think the court closed off just at the moment we started to get some information about Belize. And so I know that starting today, because they're moving in a timeline, we'll start to hear a lot more information as well.
Yes, they're moving in a timeline. So we're moving into 2013, as the prosecution had indicated to the judge on Thursday evening. So we'll be getting to the other trips that Lev Derman took to Belize. We know that he met in Oregon in terms of that football game. And we'll see how is it that Mr. John Saldivar had his first interaction with Lev Derman and Kingston, in Kingston views, because we know that Mr. Saldivar has issued his press release in terms of confirming that he met Lev Derman in 2013 and again in 2015, after which he says that that was the last contact he had with Mr. Derman. We'll see what the context of those text messages are, hopefully, and we'll see if there are any codes.
Yeah, if I could just get in one last question regarding text messages. So you've been sitting in the trial all of last week, and I'm sure there's been evidence presented, text messages maybe. Just how transparent is the type of communication that's been taking place? Has it all been in code as you've reported to us before, or are some of the messages being communicated a bit clearer?
Okay, between Kingston and Lev Derman, because prior to Kingston's testimonies, the other witnesses had communicated with Lev Derman and Washaki Energy Renewable and Noel Energy through emails.
Okay.
And through through Derman's assistance. But in terms of Kingston and Lev Derman, the prosecution established on Thursday that after Kingston met Lev Derman, Kingston began using a burner phone. They would not trade emails. It would purely be through FaceTime and text messages and through burner phones, of course. He said that he first started to use burner phones after meeting Lev Derman, who told him that it would be better to use burner phones, this temp phone that you can destroy after after using up all your minutes. And he says that it's better so that the government, that the U.S. government could not track them. And after he's finished with his burner phone, to destroy it by fire, so it's making it difficult, even more difficult for U.S. authorities to track their communication and track Lev Derman and Kingston in terms of what the illegalities that they were committing here in the U.S. They haven't much touch on text messages as yet between Lev Derman and Kingston, but in terms of communication, method of communication, it was FaceTime and using burner phones.
Okay. Well, we look forward to your update later on tonight in the newscast. And
yes.
And I know you'll also be providing updates online as well on social media.
Yes, and I want to remind viewers and listeners out there is that I post up information as the trial goes. It's not like the prosecution would release all his questions and Kingston would release all his answers in one drop.
Yes.
It goes by timing, you know. So I post up everything that's related to Belize as it's being mentioned in the courtroom. So I just ask the viewers and public for a little patience, because I know everyone is eager to know what those messages contain.
All right. Well, Hippolyta, thank you very much. I know you got to get to work for today.
Yes, thank you very much, Marlene.
Excellent job, bro.
Right.
Excellent job.
Bye.
So that's as comprehensive as it gets in terms of looking at what's taking place in Salt Lake City regarding the Lev Derman trial.
We have no set timeline. You know, this is their case. The prosecution is going to ask the question in the order that they want to ask it, in the depth that they want to ask it. We are simply awaiting to see how much information will be revealed, what level of connections will be established and proof to establish those connections. So
to round off our Eye on the News segment today, Marlene, quickly, I'll leave the fact that there are still a lot of questions looming over the Lev Derman matter and the John Saldivar situation. At the PM's press conference where he addressed this particular issue, he mentioned that he would remain in office until the outcome of this trial. And depending on what transpires, if in this case John Saldivar is incriminated in any way, then measures will be taken. But the question is, how does that work? I mean, this guy has been...
did say very clearly, because I've been asking that question quite a bit. What he said in the press conference was that if he found out any of the cabinet members lied to him about receiving $25,000 from Dermot, he didn't say the purpose. He said if he found out, because he asked all of them, he said if any of them had lied to him and to their colleagues, by extension the public, and said they didn't receive, and in fact they did, they would be fired.
No, yes. So the question is, though, how does that work in the context of someone being duly elected in this democratic process that was held yesterday? So I'm saying there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered insofar as what happens if and all these other stuff. So it's a wait and see, and that's where we are.
I do have one question that was answered yesterday, though. We have confirmed, based on the convention, that Honorable Gaspar Vega will be running in the upcoming election, as he was called to the stage as the area representative for that constituency. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. People say that election year is silly season. That's right. So we'll see what happens going forward, Marlene, and we continue to remind our viewers that for all the latest information in respect of this and any other development of national or local interest, tune into Channel 5, News 5 at 6:30.
That's right. And we are going to close off our very extended Eye on the News segment this morning. And after that, we'll get moving into our conversations for today. We do have two conversations lined up as well.
All right, so we're going to get into our meat of the matter today with our first conversation, which is an extension of what we touched on in the Eye on the News as well. And we're going to be discussing coronavirus, all we need to know from a medical perspective. And so we'll have with us on-set internist from the Belize Medical Associates, Dr. Fernando Cuellar.
All right, and Scouts Month is officially in February, so we're going to get some updates from the Scouts Association of Belize as to what activities they have planned for their celebration. That's what we have lined up for today. We're going to go ahead and take that break, and we'll get the conversation started in just a few. Stay tuned.
The Belize Bank introduces its mortgage loan promotion for first-time homeowners, offering 100% financing. No down payment, no worries. Obtaining a mortgage loan from the Belize Bank is easy, quick, and affordable. It's home ownership made easy. Visit us today and get underway in becoming a first-time homeowner. Some conditions apply. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better. You can now bundle and get a free monthly prepaid mobile plan with your broadband service and enjoy up to $70 in savings. Or you can upgrade your mobile plan for an additional $25 and enjoy an unlimited postpaid plan with unlimited calls, texts, and $40 free data. With Smart's fast internet speeds, you just have to choose the speed that works for your needs. Don't wait! Visit the Smart showroom near you and sign up for your broadband plus mobile bundle. And why not? Sign up and add Netflix to the mix. Smart, your full-service communication company.
What if the profits of your bank were shared equally with you instead of with unknown shareholders and large corporations? What if those profits remained in Belize to enrich the communities where we live? What if just having an account with your bank meant that you were now a part owner of that bank? What if your voice mattered and you had a say in how your bank is being run? What if your bank was always looking out for your best interests and its biggest goal was to see you succeed? That's what it means to be part of a credit union where all of our members are in this together. Communities work best when they work for each other. Cooperation strengthens us all. Discover the credit union difference and find out just how stronger we can be together.
Terry G on the Late Night Spree is giving to you a new rendezvous as we conclude Season 2. It's all happening at the Lerisi Garifuna Restaurant, Old Balloon Bar location, Marine Parade, Belize City. As usual, it's going to be every Thursday night from 8:30 to 9:30. Loaded with all your favorite segments and giveaways galore. So come on out, Belize. Be a part of our live interactive studio audience and win mega prizes at the Lerisi Garifuna Restaurant. Catch it live on 5 and on the Facebook page of Terry G on the Late Night Spree. Spread the word to those who haven't heard because you know you'll be entertained.
And we are back and moving into our first conversation for this morning. Can you believe it? We had an extended catch-up on the weekend news, and a part of that included the continued watch and vigilance over the novel coronavirus. We've invited a medical professional internist, Dr. Fernando Cuellar, with us this morning to help us understand more about the virus and how it spreads. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Doc. So we know you love keeping up with new information, and there has been a lot of information about this new virus.
Yeah.
And so we got to start off by being able to explain to people, or explain to all of us, just why what coronavirus itself is.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Let me do my best to see how we can clarify some. In coronavirus, corona crown, look like one crown under the electron microscope. It's a new virus, but they're not a new family of virus because we've had it all over the world and it is before, not a cousin.
Yeah.
We've had the cousins before, so this is like you come across one long last cousin, which you finally get to know after this day of time. It's a virus that first was in the animal kingdom per se. It's still debatable if it really did a snakes or a rat bat, but it has moved from the animal kingdom into the human kingdom now, and that's what the problem is, no? And of course, when something new, it brings a lot of fear and panic and what have you, justifiably so. We know where parties start from, and thank God, and the country has invested a lot of resources into trying to contain it as much as possible. I get a lot of questions, and just now, just before we went on, we've been asking something, how you know somebody got coronavirus? You can't know just by looking at them. You can't know by examination, because you have a cousin there, you have a neighbors there, like the flu and the common cold, which you can have basically the same symptoms. No? You can have runny nose, stuffy nose, sore throat, fever. They're like if you got a common cold or a flu. But it transition. The problem is, and it happens in flu too, you develop pneumonias, you develop your lung fail, and that will kill you. No? So that is what has been happening. And unfortunately, we don't have one specific treatment for it. So you have to battle it as best as you can, no?
And that's a question I had, because it is a new virus, but from a family that we know. So in other words, it is, I want to say, a strain of flu. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we don't want mixed words.
Okay.
We don't want
so it's a strain that causes flu-like symptoms.
Correct.
Now, what is the concern when a virus that has never been in humans before makes that transition? Why does the whole global health community go on alert?
Because it's new. That's the basic thing. We don't know how much mortality it can cause. Like if the 200 catch it, the 200 are dead, 100 are dead, no are dead. So all of this newness about it is what makes us wonder, no? And we can only talk about it the more the period goes on, and we see 800 deaths, 35,000 infected, that kind of thing. So that the newness of it makes us scared, no?
And so
I have a question, because while we're looking at the mortality rate in its most preliminary aspect, does it help that it has since been declared an epidemic and something that is of global threat, considering the fact that not that many people have died of it, if you look at it from that point of view?
Right, that has helped tremendously. No, that has, and this is the meat of the matter, is that to fight this new virus, prevention better than cure. So you try to contain it. The whole public health, the whole China response to it has been, I think, commendable. Of course, you get conspiracy theories that they know the report all that they should, and blah blah blah. But you could see effort being made to contain it, so it doesn't. We're not wait till one year pass and then they say, you know what, this is a really bad virus, and then it kill the percentage of thousands and so forth. No, so I think anytime, and this won't be the last. And this is one of the points I want to make today. This won't be the last. So as a country, we should learn from this. We should use this as and make Ministry of Health and government not catch feelings if anybody criticizes them, but use it as one exercise and not stop there. I had to say every 3 years we have one exercise, even though we don't have one epidemic on our pandemic.
Just like
on
a
our hands.
state of readiness.
State of readiness, make sure that you show the Belizean people we're semi-prepared, we half prepared. We'll never be fully prepared because even the richest countries in the world can be fully prepared, but some level of readiness and show, not just say it, but show it. Listen, we got this warehouse with so much hazmat suits, we got so much ventilators, we don't know where we're putting our people, we don't know that they're going perhaps the BDF camp, and we don't know that they could set up a
isolation
big tent
area
and then kind of thing, don't know in place. And you could see the confusion will happen over the weekend. Being nice, miscommunication.
Misinformation, though.
About who want to flag the people, if the immigration or the American Airlines or okay. But clearly it never gone smooth. So let's learn from it. Not start to require amongst each other and anything. But make we have one good clear cut. I know here people like Nemo involved. Okay. This is a national emergency thing. We don't hear agriculture involved. We don't hear one whole. Already here, likely so. I mean, we should have one. And I hear the minister say anything basically. This should have been one. I would think this should have been one national crisis where by now 1 week cabinet meeting we could have helped just but no worry about things.
I don't know if you call it a crisis yet, but at least address the public.
Exactly.
You know,
get ahead
at
of
least,
it.
You know why the beach chicken little neither said if sky is falling is okay, but give it more than what I think one lukewarm, warmish kind of response to it.
And I have to be clear because we've done quite a few interviews, and I can't neglect to say that we do know they have the surveillance system in place. We do know they get the manifesto as to who's coming, so they did know that these people were coming from China.
And it was tested.
And they were tested.
Yeah, the surveillance system, the response system was tested, has been tested at the different borders and cruise ships and so. But I sure we could do better.
Yeah.
I
think the information
we could always
part
do better.
Is what we need to. I mean, because people are scared. People are scared because they see and hear these numbers coming out. You spoke of it earlier. It's new, so we don't know what to expect. We hear people dying, but we don't necessarily put it into context. And we do know, I said it earlier in the eye-opener, we know we're lesser resourced than a China or a US. So I think that's where kind of the preliminary fear comes from. But from your observations and what's been revealed so far, so the Wuhan virus or the novel coronavirus was flagged end of December, early January. So we're almost a month and a half in. What do we know so far about the virus? Who's more susceptible? Who dies from it? What's the rate as to those who get it severely and those who die from it?
Yeah, good question. It's the people who are vulnerable that the one will die from it mostly. Okay, people who are elderly, who have other types of diseases alongside it, diabetes, heart disease, all of that kind of thing. So the person who is 27, 35, 45, have no other condition, even if they catch it, they have more chances of surviving from it than people who are elderly and sick already. Okay, so that's a good thing. And like I said, a lot more people will catch it and survive from it than die from it. So we shouldn't be that like just because you got a coronavirus, you're dead. Okay? That's straightforward information everybody for know. And the best thing that will prevent and listen to the official and stop the mess with Facebook and that kind of nonsense.
And we're in the flu season, so it makes people more fearful.
Exactly. When you go down a health center, you go and say, listen, I come here for a flu or a cold-like symptom, please give me a mask. So another run the risk of spread it. Even if they not come after you, please, the taxi man, if you got one passenger, he drop in the car. I don't know if you can carry up the rate of the taxi, but have a mask, no? And everybody wash their hand and anything. So then those things are important. But we as a country should have already set things in place that everybody know what this is where we are. And that way, sometimes the scare come even more. Okay.
You mentioned that the coronavirus is more, perhaps there's a higher mortality amongst the elderly. Wouldn't you say the same for children who perhaps don't have that proper, strong enough immune system to be able to battle
That's a very smart deduction, I mean, and I didn't say it. I tend to be more biased towards adults because I practice adult medicine. I know there's a lot of information come out about children, so but that's a very valid thing. Not that small children, medium size, where the immune system not that strong, then they would be at a risk. No, but I don't see the concrete numbers, adults and children and so forth. No, at the end of the day, it mess up their lungs, and they can't breathe. They have to put them on a machine, and some respond, some don't respond.
Yeah.
Okay.
How different is this kind of are these types of complications from a regular flu?
We're not sure yet, but we do have people who die from flu. I mean, the same thing.
About 100.
Yeah, exactly. So, and not because coronavirus is in tongue or in thing mean that Mr. Flu and sit down by his side and making him take over the show. He's still there. So anybody who exhibiting any or showing any sign of respiratory stuffiness, sneezing, coughing, fever, you should be responsible and say, listen, I'm not going to work, then kind of things. No?
Is it safe to say that the coronavirus has similarities to the SARS of 2003?
Yeah, then a first cousin to each other from the virus itself, no?
Yeah.
And they cause the same problems where will eventually lead to respiratory failure and death.
Aren't they all the same family? SARS, MERS, Middle Eastern?
They have 7 different types of coronavirus. Okay. Number 7 that the new one, the novo. Okay, but the 6 ones before they bred actually, cousin.
I guess this gives us a great opportunity to kind of dispel one of the there's a lot of conspiracy theories that people have been developing. One has been, you know, you pick up your bottle of Lysol, you pick up your bottle of Dettol, and it says kills coronavirus. So people are saying, how is it a new virus if it's on these things?
Because it's a
new strain.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are some of the I mean, you're in private practice, so
and public practice.
Okay, so but especially in the private practice, how do you participate to complement what's taking place publicly?
Good question. We actually had a exercise last week. We had a case, and we are unprepared like everything else, and it helped to get things in place. But definitely we can't handle a case in a private setting. No, we would prefer to transfer them to a already part of the. You see that we are part of the plan. We are part of the operation. Okay, so if we identify one, we will want we don't have the isolation set up. Okay, so that I don't know that if I have one very suspicious case that I know where part I want to send this patient to, how we are send them to. Then kind of thing, and that isn't so much in place as yet. So let me start with the private setting, because the public people catch feelings when you talk about that. But the private is also ill-prepared, more ill-prepared, because that thing needs a lot of resources, no? Okay, so we tell our nurses, for example, in the clinic area, if you see anybody cough, go after them, one mask, ask them. So, and if we have any hospital, we see a lot of foreigners in the private setting, so we have to put things in place. We had an exercise that we have fine-tuned since then last week. Okay, but we have to work hand in hand with the public, with the public health sector. Okay.
And we were saying earlier, you know, it's one thing for people to go into a clinic or a private clinic and feel concerned about the flu-like symptoms they have, but really the first catchment has to be at those border points as much as possible. So. We keep on paying attention to that. But how do you, when you hear people being very concerned, and you said it very clearly early on, you don't want to pay attention to rumors as much as finding official information. What do you say to people to help to temper their fears as a physician?
Well, be open with them, be aware that you can get these kinds of questions. There's no stupid question, there's no silly question. You expect one big time ask you one certain way, you expect one man on the ground ask you another way, and be able to communicate at each level, no? And share that information and try to guide them amongst that. One other thing I am particularly, and this served for me personally, because like I said, I do the critical care part. I would deal with the patients in the most critical condition. We have a lot of health workers who will be involved, and I want a little extra protection for them. Don't just give me a suit, but ensure that if I did, that my family will take. So special insurances from them because I mean, it's one thing being exposed on a plane, for example, but when you're in a confirmed case and that body full of virus, you would want to stand a
healthcare
chance.
workers
So
are the
healthcare
first
workers,
defense.
I think we need for advocate stronger for them, you know. Okay.
That's a tough. It appears to be a tough sell though, in terms of
what's that?
You know, getting the insurance companies or all these other bodies, these entities on board with.
No private insurance company will give what you call it, one policy against SARS or thing. But I talk about the public, no, the public insurance, no.
But what you
that if I did, then I know that my family will be fine,
taken care of,
and every healthcare worker, okay.
What you have said, I think, is one of the points that perhaps we can close off with. The coronavirus is the now global scare. You know, there was SARS, there was MERS, there was H1N1, there was Ebola, there was Zika, there was chikungunya. There's always something new emerging. And it means that we must constantly be alert as to what is taking place. From what we see taking place, especially in China, and the majority of the cases are in China, what do you think are some of the lessons that we are learning now that we can improve upon moving forward?
Well, the main thing I think is the community buy-in. No, people have to be aware and be able to willing to participate. One thing that for ten China man that one stay home and ten one coffee, stay home because coffee react differently. And I don't say to those shame. Okay, one culture is a bit more disciplined than the other one, so we have to figure out how we could get across to them. To think and be ready. Please make every 3 years we do this exercise. Take off one day and say, you know what, we'll declare. Okay, and we don't wait for one other virus to come along. Every 3 years, every 2 years, nobody going to talk to me and say, "Oh, I know it costs money." But set aside $100,000 so don't want to simulation, make all of the immigration and police and everybody and community and schools and everybody. But
like how
set
they
it
do mass
every 3
casualty.
years, exactly, simulations. And not wait to another thing come along. Okay, I think that's one of the biggest lessons we could learn.
And in the meantime, let's just try to prevent the flu-like symptoms in general, right? And those include, people have been skeptical of, oh, why are you just talking about washing your hands?
Well, the wash hands brought some laugh because one of the officials had said wash your hands for 20 minutes, no, instead of 20 seconds. So that was
But even from WHO, their number one thing is...
And the basic stuff, and asking for a mask, and if you're there, if you're sick, please let your work understand, make you stay home, into school, that kind of thing. And stay home on 2 days, that one more better investment than try to cure it afterwards.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about what we do know, what we have learned so far about the coronavirus. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about Scouts Month. So please stay tuned.
With over 100 years
And welcome back to the third segment, I should say, of our show this morning. We have been joined on set by our friends from the Scouts Association of Belize to discuss the activities on the calendar of events for Scouts Month 2020. We have with us Roberto Lopez, he's the National Scout Executive. Good morning. In the middle is Faith Myers, she's a youth representative of the Scouts. And on the far left, we also have Neftali Palma. He's a field and program executive with the Scouts Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
A full month of activity we're looking ahead to. What can we expect in terms of the Scouts presence and the events to take place during Scouts Month?
Well, we have a lot of activities planned. We have an entire month planned. But for that, we go to the program director, program executive, I should say, which is Neftali Palma. He has an entire... I don't know how this guy does it, really. But Neftali, you want to explain to them?
All right. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. First of all, we had the month starting, the beginning of the month, we had an opening, official opening. And we had Ms. Jennifer LaRue, one of our directors, that did the opening ceremony. And we also had this, at the same time, we had the Senior Scouts, where we had like Faith, she's a member of the Senior Scouts, the Venture Scouts. And they had a venture retreat at Camp Oakley. And they had a great weekend for being opening Scout Month. We also have coming up, we had this for this past week, we have a recruitment drive, getting new scouts as well. We have a community service day, scouting for blocks that was supposed to happen on Saturday. You all know that we are getting our building. And we normally do scouting for food. But this year we decided to do some scouting for blocks, so that we asked the scouts to go out this year to get some blocks for our building that we are hoping to get by the end of this year. So that was a little different that we did in the program.
This is the building that's being constructed near the House of Culture?
Yes. And groundwork has been done with it already. We have the piles in already. They have filled up the lot and everything. So we're expecting to get our building pretty soon. Yesterday we had a treasure hunt. Some of the scouts groups, they had a treasure hunt around their neighborhood as well. And so they were involved with that. Today is supposed to be Flashback Monday, so we're supposed to see some old pictures of when Faith was a little scout.
Oh, like that one?
There we go.
Yes. All right. Yeah. And then on Wednesday we have Good Turn Day, where all the scouts go out and try to do a good turn. I mean, we're supposed to be doing it every day, but it's a special day, so we try to do it a little bit more.
That's like helping the elderly cross the street, do different stuff like that.
There's a lot of ways that things could help. And then this weekend we have our Scout Commissioners Gala that will be taking place at the Radisson. And that's supposed to be a big night for us as well. We have a lot of things planned for that. We have some award ceremony and things like that will be happening for that. So we look forward to that as well. It's a fundraising for the association as well to help us with our program.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up question here. How active has the Scouts Association been in terms of recruiting new members and, of course, the work that it does across the country?
Well, can I answer that question real quick? Sure. To answer your question, we have been growing. Lately, I can tell you that we are about 600 members new.
Oh, wow.
We have presence in Aguacate. Do you know where Aguacate is?
Yeah.
There.
Deep
We have Cub Scouts and Ventures in Aguacate.
Fantastic.
Yes, we have in San Pedro, Colombia. We have Cub Scouts and Ventures in San Pedro, Colombia. We have touched base at Halacte, and Halacte is very promising, and it's upcoming Scout group there as well.
Nice.
We also have in Bella Vista, Scout group opening in Bella Vista. We had Orange Walk up lately, so we are growing. Numbers are coming, and we are growing and making a big hit, which is good.
So children are definitely interested, but I know you always need adult volunteers. Have you been getting equal interest from people who want to be scout leaders to help to groom the kids?
Actually, yes. We have gotten, for example, help from different managing authorities. For example, in the Toledo area, we have gotten Father Matt, who he's really into it. So he has identified a couple teachers in his school.
Nice.
So St. Peter Claver is actually doing recruitment at this time.
Nice.
So the adults are seeing the value of what scouting is, and that's what we are building on. No?
And we still have some scouts, some forever scouts, right? Like those who grow up in it and still stick with it even into adulthood. How long
Once a
have
scout, always a scout.
So how long have you been a Scout Faith?
12 years this year.
How old are you now?
18.
18. Okay.
Most of her life.
And you are a Venture Scout.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
It's the oldest section of the Scout because there's Cubs, then there's Scouts, then you become a Venture. The program itself is you self-planned. So if your venture group decides that they want to go to Key for a weekend or to do a hike this weekend, you guys plan it and then you guys go. It's very like independent.
Okay.
And it really helps you become a better leader in your society and better have better skills when you take it to the work field, like for planning events and stuff like that.
Now, how many girls do we have in the Scouting movement? You're here as a female Venture Scout. Are we seeing more? When I was young, we couldn't join Scouts. Girls weren't allowed. We had to do brownies or Girl Guides.
Yes.
But that changed a while ago. But talk to us about how the interest has been growing.
Presently, there's like an equal amount of girls and boys in Scouts.
Nice.
Especially in my group. The older groups, they're more girls still active as you get to become a Venture than boys, I would say. But the girls are very present in this association.
I'm happy to hear that, yeah.
Yes, just let me highlight some of the other things that we have. On Wednesday, the 19th, you talk about brownies and Girl Guides. On Wednesday, the 19th is Uniform Awareness Day. And we do it to celebrate also the birthday of Ben Powell, which is the 22nd. But we are joining up with the Girl Guides, and so you'll see Scouts, Brownies, Girl Guides, Cubs, Venture Scouts, leaders, members of the association in their uniform on the 19th. So that is for Uniform Awareness Day. And then coming on to the weekend for that, we have, for the Friday night, we have our campfires countrywide. Again, we have the Cubs and Scouts and Ventures that have campfires. And then also we have on the weekend of Founders Day, basically is our church service and parade. Okay. So we'll be having that again in conjunction with the Girl Guides because like I said, they are like our sisters in Scouting. So we do a lot of activities with them as well and we try to make sure that we have one next thing that we have is the Sustainable Development Goals Day. We have a day for that where they'll be concentrating on the SDGs. And then there's a parent entertainment night, and then we have the closing of the Scout month at the end of the month, and we also have we had the Senior Scouts that close the month with their retreat, and then we have the Scouts that will be closing the month with our unit council course that we train our young Scouts to be leaders as well.
Nice.
So we have a full month of activities and we have all things going on countrywide.
How does the idea of training new up-and-coming leaders come across to persons who are already in the Scouts who have that ambition? Is it an easy transition to get them on board to teach them these leadership skills or this transition?
Well, to answer your question in a nutshell, the Scout Association follows the Scout method, which is the learning by doing. If you would like to put a term to it, it's andragogy. Where you actually go out on the field and actually do what you need to learn, and then it's trial and error, and you learn from it. So it's basically a smooth transition eventually.
Why do you think, as the world and kids are distracted by the technology that grows, why do you think that this still continues to be a consistent interest in Scouting? Because it's very outdoors. It's actually, it feels like the opposite of where the digital world is going, but still very relevant and important. Why do you think that's still there?
Well, it's not like we're taking out technology from Scouting.
Okay.
It's not. For example, I don't know if you have noticed there's an app, SkyMap, where you can actually have the Scouts out in the wild and take your phone and look at the constellations.
Observe the stars, yeah.
So it's you
so
incorporate.
You still use it. Okay,
you incorporate
good.
many things into what is the Scout movement.
That's
so
good.
It becomes very catching and attractive to the child.
But when you're at camp, I mean, you're not like texting and scrolling through Instagram or TikTok. you're doing things. And I think that's perhaps the most fascinating part. You're building a tent, you're cooking your food, you're hiking. And what about that? So, I mean, if you talk from your personal experience, what is the joy that you get from it? Especially since many others haven't even ventured into anything remotely close to that.
Well, I find it interesting because you develop such good relationships with people when they're not talking on their phone. You learn more about their personalities and stuff, and you just appreciate it more than when it's not on a screen.
Yeah.
I prefer real time communication.
Like human connection.
Connection.
And the skills you learn as well. I mean, you will be the most equipped to handle unforeseen circumstances because you have some very practical training. I noticed you have some rope there. What's going on?
I was supposed to teach knots today. So
knots. Oh, like how to tie the rope, like a really strong one. Okay. It's because you guys wouldn't allow me in scouting when I was a little girl. That's why I don't know, but Faith will teach us. Okay.
Would you like to right now?
Sure, sure. So she's going to do a little practical skill for us. And do you get a badge for learning how to tie knots?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are. There's pioneering badges because in scouting they teach us knots and lashings.
Don't think you're out of it. Were you a scout, Isani?
Not quite.
Do you know how to tie a knot?
I know how to tie my laces.
That's a knot. That's a knot.
Okay.
Okay. So the first knot I'm going to teach is the reef knot, which is present on our badge, and it's the first knot every scout learns because it's very important for a lot of things we do at camp. Like when we're getting sticks, we bundle it up together and we drag it to our campsites. And
Okay.
stuff.
So it has to be a strong knot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very easy actually. So just take the left strand of the rope and put it over the right, like this, and then
under
and under, and then just the right over left. You will know if it's right because you can do
I don't think you have it there.
I don't think I did it.
No.
So it's right over left.
No, left over right and right over left.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
Left over
You had
right.
the running knot before.
I had the knot that we all learned. It's actually different.
Over left.
Yeah, so it's gonna look like an
over
actual
right
loop.
and right over left.
This way.
Left over right.
Left.
Your other left.
No.
Do I do this first?
No.
I keep it open like this, right?
So it's the same way we learn to tie everything first. It's
Left over right.
left over right,
One overhand knot.
under.
Yeah.
All right, and then you do the opposite
Right
side.
over left.
Right over left.
Right.
No, right.
Right.
Other
Over.
right. Yes, that right.
Yes.
There you go.
And there's a difference.
Ah,
I
yeah.
thought it would be the
Got
same thing too.
There you
No,
go.
there's
Got
it's
it.
different.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is, huh?
So this is a strong knot. This
Yes.
is a
And it's very easy to lose afterwards.
It's very
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the toughest? Well, no, I should not say the toughest knot. If we can't do the easy knot, we probably will learn the tough knot in one segment. What's a good knot that most people should know?
A very important knot that we learn is the bowline. It's kind of tricky, but it's
You just want to test us. Go ahead.
It's important because it's for your safety. Once like you fall down a hole or something,
Okay.
you tie the knot around you,
Okay.
and it won't slip, so it's safe for you to someone to then pull you up.
Okay.
Okay.
Got you. So let's do that one.
The hard one is on your body, so I won't teach that one.
Okay.
You can do it off your body, and so you start by making a loop, and then so they taught us like this. The rabbit comes out of the hole,
Okay.
and this is the tree. This is the tree, so you cut around the tree, and then back into the hole. That's it, right? No? I
Yeah,
didn't.
make the loop correct.
Oh, I made the loop wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, the
It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
like this, right?
Okay, so start with the loop.
Like this.
Okay, so I got the
Right.
loop.
Yeah.
One over the other. Okay, here we go.
The rabbit comes out of the hole,
Mhm.
around the tree,
Around.
and then back into the hole. And
Back into. Okay. There we go. And no, I didn't do it. All right, we're gonna leave. This is why they earn badges over it. That clearly shows you it's not as easy as we think. That was interesting, and that's part of what the appeal is. Sometimes too, for parents to get the kids involved, the life skills that they learn along the way, and also the camaraderie that you build. You also travel quite a bit too. You guys go to scouting trips outside of Belize.
Yes, we do.
Still?
Yes.
Travel a lot.
Yeah. Even within the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the country very well. We know Central America, South, North America, right down. Like I said, I've been as far as South Korea.
Nice.
So that was an
Just
interesting.
through scouting.
Just through scouting. I've been
Yeah.
all over the place. So.
Yeah.
I mean, last year I went to Peru. That was
Nice.
amazing.
And for you, Faith, where is scouting taking you?
the furthest so far, Guatemala.
Okay. All right. But if people are interested, if they want to get their kids involved, how young do you start and how do you find a troop?
Okay. The youngest age that we currently manage is 7-year-olds.
Okay.
We go from 7 to 21.
Okay.
The 7 to 11 are the Cubs, and then the 11 to 15 are Scouts. Then from 15 to 21, then we have the Venture Scouts. So Faith is between the ages of 15 and 21.
Okay.
Right? So we actually station right out of schools. Most schools have a Scout group. So check with the school. If the school does not have a Scout group, then you can call the office at 223-7216, or you can contact Mr. Nefta de Palma if you're in the city. And in the other districts, well, we have Scouts in Corozal, Orangewa, Belize, all the way down to Toledo now. So we're proud to report
All the way to Halactay.
all the way to Halactay, imagine.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and telling us all about what you guys have planned. Best of luck and enjoy the celebration.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take that final break. When we come back, we'll have our wrap up, so stay tuned.
The Belize Bank
All right, and
we are back and at the end of our show.
A very long one.
Yeah.
Quite a lot that we covered, from coronavirus scares to education on coronavirus to the full recap of the convention to what takes place in Utah today. And also, don't forget, there are always positive things happening. It's Scout Month this month. You'll see people wearing their uniforms. They'll be recruiting new members. If you have a child over 7, you can definitely consider enrolling them in a Scout group and having them learn really interesting skills and life-saving skills in some cases through their membership in Scouts. So we do want to tell you, they have a very active Facebook page. You can find them there. Yeah. And there's also an office here in Belize City. But that is all the time we have for today. Remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.